Hey everybody, James from Type here, and today we're talking about how to make an INFP like you. We're going to kind of go over some of the different things you can do to make an INFP want to be around you, and some things maybe you could do that would make them not want to be around you. Let's dive right in. So first impressions, obviously an important thing when it comes to making SI users like you, since they look at their past, they look at their experiences, they're going to remember their first experiences with you, and that formative kind of primary impression is really important for SI users. And for a first impression, there's lots of things that you can do. And in general, I'm talking about not just the first time you meet them, but generally the kind of beginning stage of knowing an INFP. You want to make them feel safe and comfortable to share. That's really important. They do have SI, they want to share about themselves, but they're still introverted. They're still nervous people are going to judge them, right? Because they have TE aspirational and FE nemesis. They're worried people are going to think badly of them, that they're not going to like them, they're not going to accept them, they're not going to respect them. So you need to make them feel kind of safe and comfortable knowing they're not going to be judged, knowing that they can share about themselves, that they can talk about themselves, they can kind of express themselves and be authentic around you without you judging them, without you belittling them or insulting them. So it's a really good thing you can start out trying to make them feel kind of safe in an environment. If they're uncomfortable, if they look out of place, go out of your way to initiate with them, go out of your way to start a conversation, include them in things, make them feel welcome. They are affiliative, so they want to be part of the group. They want to be included. They want to kind of have relationships, so including them in social circles will definitely make them feel comfortable. Another thing that you can do to try to make a first impression, because INFPs enjoy expressing their personal opinions and feelings, you can ask them their personal opinions and feelings. Say, who do you like? How do you feel about this? From an SE perspective, what was your experience like? Get to know their feelings, get to know their feedback. They're going to have feedback on the situation or on their experiences. So getting to kind of know that, getting to learn about them, what they're going through is a really good way to kind of break the ice. Another thing is finding ways to entertain them, how to make them laugh, what gives them a good experience. Some INFPs will be in the full, camp of that kind of anti-critic, I just want to go home, and they might only get a good experience from being alone. And this is just a reality. Sometimes some INFPs are so introverted that they might not even want to be around people at that stage in their life. But for a lot of INFPs who are looking to kind of be who they are in a social way and be idealistic, they're going to want relationships. And in those relationships, they're going to want to have fun. So it's important to try to make them laugh, kind of establish a connection with them, make jokes, find kind of unique things to pick up on that you can kind of, establish this rapport with them. Be charming, be witty, make them, have a good experience. And that's a good thing to kind of do to make a first impression, is to be funny. So this kind of, so my wording on this point is strange, but it helps to enable their behavior. So this one gets into that murky category of personality typing, where you know what you can do to make them happy, but you still have to decide whether or not to do it. So if you want to make an INFP like you just without any morality involved, enabling their behavior is a good way to do it, because they don't want to be criticized or judged. So if you just go out of your way to say, I don't judge you at all, everything you're doing is perfect, everything you're doing is good, you have nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be embarrassed by, and just enable them, that will work to make them like you. But when it comes to being a mature adult, and if you actually want to establish real relationships, obviously things like honesty and integrity matter. But in general, INFPs, especially in the first impression, they don't want to be judged. They don't want to feel like they're going to be belittled by someone that they don't even like, because INFPs will listen to people on the same degree that they like them. So if they feel really good about you and they like you and they put you first, they will listen to you. If they don't feel good about you, they don't know you, they don't like you, they're not comfortable with you, they're not going to listen to you regardless of if what you say is true or helpful. Because they don't have their own TI, they have a really hard time really knowing if what someone is saying is true. So they are able to determine truth based on how much they like someone and how good that person makes them feel. So that's something to be really aware of when it comes to a beginning impression. And then let's say that kind of middle area, if you're pursuing a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever it may be, in this kind of after the first impression is made, INFPs do have any parent and SI child. So how does that work? There's a few different tenets when it comes to relationships. It's a pretty complicated subject, but one of the most basic ones are any users want to be pursued, they want to be included, wanted. Any users in general don't initiate when it comes to showing desire, going out of their way to pursue someone in either a romantic or a friendship sense. So in general, they want to be pursued. And their SI is really measuring how much they can trust people. So going, how many experiences do I have with this person? Am I comfortable around them? Do I feel like they have my best interests in mind? And if they do, they're going to trust you and they're going to go along with what you want much more. For INFP specifically, they are introverted types, and introverted SI users are, the least likely to initiate when it comes to social situations. So they're really waiting. They want to be pursued. They want to be initiated upon. And they really will want you to do most of the active work when it comes to establishing that relationship. Their SI is more optimistic as well, so something to keep in mind is they want to have a history with you before being pursued. You don't want to start with just like, I want to do this with you, I want to do this, because they're going to get kind of afraid and they're going to get a little bit apprehensive if they don't have that kind of experience and that comfort level with you. They want to know that there's that stability, that there's that rapport, that history before they're going to, let you pursue them nearly as much. And any in general, it wants to be invited, it wants to be, like I said, pursued in that responsible way. It does want to be invited and included. It just needs to know that it feels safe around you, because it's really important to their SI child. It wants to make those memories. It wants to make those have those core experiences with you. So it likes when people invite them to things that are entertaining, invite them to parties, invite them to concerts, invite them to things that will give them a good experience. And in general, it likes to be included in that way. It also wants to be cared for, treated selflessly. It's going to be afraid of being judged. INFPs are going to be apprehensive, worried that other people aren't going to be good, worried other people, aren't going to treat them well. So if you go out of your way to be kind, compliment them, give them things, be selfless, they're really going to give you that positive feedback that you'll need in order to have a relationship with them. But at the beginning, INFPs will definitely be in that judgment mode of judging you to see if you're good enough for them, judging you to see if your intentions are going to affect them negatively or positively, and they're going to be in that kind of mode of feedback. So it's really your job, if you're trying to establish a relationship with them, to basically prove yourself, which you could argue is bad or good. That's completely up to you. But when it comes to establishing a relationship with INFPs, it's your job, basically, in that sense, to prove yourself, prove your worth to them, and they're going to judge you and give feedback based on how nice they think you are and how enjoyable you are to be around. That's just the reality of it. So then we have the long term. Let's say you're friends with them. It's a longer term relationship. INFPs really value their past with their SI. So if you've known them from young, if you've known them for a long time, even regardless of compatibility, they're going to value you because they value the past and they value people in their past more than they value new relationships. So the longer you know an INFP, the more they'll value you in general, as a very general sense. From a long-term sense, same things that we kind of talked about before. You want to care for their feelings. You want to make sure that their feelings are heard, whether they're happy or sad. You don't want to hurt them, trample on them, ignore their feelings, put them down. They value that consistency with that optimistic sensing. They want to know that, you're wanting them consistently, and they're going to try to be consistent for you as well, and they like that kind of shared experience, like I was saying before. They want to be given a lot of those experiences. They want to make sure you're constantly inviting them, and even though they might not invite you back, they still probably want to be invited in a lot of different ways. It can be hard to know whether an INFP is actually interested in being in a relationship or friends with you because they're a background type, and they can very much just kind of wait, and they want to observe and see how much you're going to want them. So in that way, it can be kind of hard to read. But this is just who they are. And I wouldn't criticize them too much. Out of all the types, they're probably the respond the worst to criticism, I would say. It can be kind of close between different types, but I would say overall INFPs probably hate being criticized the most and respond to criticism the worst. They do not really want to be given that bad experience of being criticized or called out. Even if it's extremely important for the development, they'll still not do it. That's really a crux when it comes to relationships with INFPs. You'll probably get to some point in your relationship with them where either they can handle the truth or they can't. If they can handle the truth, you'll have a great relationship with them. If they ignore it and become deluded, and that can be a huge problem, and at that point you won't be able to have a relationship with them. So it's really important that you realize at an early time, is this the type of person who can listen to others and change their behavior, or are they just thinking they're better than other people and have a superiority complex, and they ignore everyone's opinions because they're just mad they're not being complimentary? And that can definitely happen when they're immature. You don't want to embarrass them. Like I said before, they hate being judged by others, so you definitely don't want to, ridicule them in front of others or embarrass their reputation or put them down. They're going to really, really resent you for that. And next point, exactly, avoid resentment. What I mean by that is if they're being resentful to you, avoid them, because the truth is with INFPs, once they decide to be resentful and have that perspective and be traumatized by you, there's no going back. So I would just find another human being to pursue, because there's really no coming back from an optimistic SI user being resentful or bitter towards you. Because if they have a bad memory and they decide that, you know what, I'm traumatized and that's a bad memory and I'm never going to forgive you, I'm never going to get over that past, then there's no real moving forward in that relationship. So you hope you kind of avoid any kind of situations where they might resent you, but if that does come up, then that can be a kind of death sentence for that relationship. And watch to see if they're giving you their SI and TE. And this is kind of the core of relationships. Relationships live and die by the third and fourth functions. Most people give their first and second, and most people don't give the shadow very much. The real core that will determine whether or not a relationship will work is really those third and fourth functions, because those are really in flux and really important to the heart and soul of any personality type. If they're giving you, trust, if they're being loyal, if they're consistent for you, if they're, giving you good feedback, if they're able to listen to criticism, if they're able to endure for you, if they're able to be embarrassed but still stick by you, that's what will tell you whether or not it will work long term. If they are, constantly betraying you in little ways because they're resentful about the past, if they're not believing you when you tell them the truth, if they're ignoring you, if they're, being disrespectful to you, all these kind of things will add up, and you'll start to know whether or not a relationship with them would work long term. So that's kind of, I know it kind of morphed a little bit into just general sense of a relationship with an INFP, but in general, to make an INFP like you, it's kind of the things we said before in general. Care about their feelings, make sure that you're giving them good experiences, make sure that you're initiating conversation, you're initiating experiences, and make sure that you value their feedback, value their perspective and their experience. And if you don't, they're probably not going to want to stick around for you too much. So I hope this kind of was a little helpful in understanding how INFPs work and what a relationship with them is like. If you want more in-depth in different relationships, and I could go definitely way more in-depth here, let me know down below, and I hope you have a great day.